Question 1's results report shows that on average the answer was 7.44, meaning that, on a scale of 1 to 10, the participants of the questionnaire voted 7.44. This implies that the mise en scène is better than average, as that would assumedly be an average vote of 5, but that there's still room for improvement, as it isn't a 10 out of 10. Considering the lowest rating on the mise en scène was a 5, this shows to me that it's relatively suitable for my desired audience, but that there's still room for improvement, as it isn't a 10. When an individual watched my documentary, though, they did point out an example where my attempt at mise en scène wasn't 100% appropriate to the interview.
See, it says he's obsessed with his phone, but in the background you've got social networking, so like you would have said obsessed with social networking.
Question 2 is about how appropriate the cutaways are, and for the questionnaire, 90% of the participants answered that they felt they were appropriate. This shows me that I've correctly selected cutaways for my documentary in order to anchor the meaning, which shows me that the documentary has been contextualised. However, there is a 10% sway that the cutaways are not appropriate, which indicates that, again, like question 1, there's slight room to improve. An example on how I could improve my choice of cutaways, or the camera angle used on the cutaway, was provided by an individual watching my documentary and giving a commentary to it.
I think you could have picked a better angle for that bit.
Question 3 is asking for the audience's opinion through rating each of the choices' qualities with a number. This shows me that the quality and the music were tied for the highest, both at 4.2 each. This implies my documentary is of a relatively high quality and that the music was appropriately chosen to suit the target audience. The lowest answer given here was the voiceover, which had 3.67 as the average answer. This is then supported, though, by the individual who watched my work to comment on it, as she has difficulty in hearing everything the voiceover speaker says due to the pace of her speech.
I think the voice needs to be slower, because at some point I'm missing some words because of the fast pace.
This question compares my documentary to Channel 4 documentaries for asking the audience how similar they think that the two are. The most commonly chosen answers are moderately similar and very similar. This indicates to me that I followed convention well enough to create a professional-looking documentary. Two individuals differ to this idea, though. Both of them criticise the documentary's professionalism through how exciting it is and through the choice of including clips with pronunciation errors.
It's a bit boring. I mean, like, it's good what she's saying, it's just like if it was a bit more like statistical, so it's like boom, 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 you'd probably be better.
I think he needs to speak more clearly and use more diction so people understand him.
This question concerns whether the audience would be interested in watching the documentary if they had found it on the TV, with 5 being a definite yes and 0 being a definite no. The average answer was 4.2. This suggests to me that I've appealed to the correct audience as the lowest vote was 3, which would still round up to 5 rather than to 0. 2 of the individuals answered whether or not they would watch the rest of the documentary after watching the first 5 minutes, and while one decided it was not for them, the other was interested, which does support the questionnaires results.
No, I'm not willing to watch the rest of the documentary after watching the first 5 minutes because I'm not interested in the topic.
I am willing to watch the rest of it because it is quite an interesting subject.
This question talks about what the biggest downfall of the documentary was, offering 3 answers in the form of a multiple choice question. This allowed participants to have their own opinion on the documentary. The majority voted the elements included were the biggest downfall. The interviews, for example, would fall into this category. 66.67% voted this, which shows me that the interviews perhaps were not suitable for the audience, though I offered no option if none of the answers were valid. One individual offers a suggestion for both the downfall being the editing or being the choice of elements included due to not being able to understand one of the vox pops.
It's too glitchy. He's talking really fast. I can't understand him.
That's a bit too jittery. If you speeded it up so it's smoother, it'd probably be a bit better.
I don't like the jumpy bit. I know it fits to the beat, but I find it really unflowing compared to the rest of the documentary.
This question focuses on whether or not seeing this documentary aired on Channel 4 would be a reasonable expectation. While 20% answered no, 80% of the audience still answered yes, which suggests once again that I followed convention well enough to create a professional documentary. 2 individuals differ from this though, as one suggests a flaw that would prevent it from being aired anywhere professionally, and another focuses on the fact that it's too casual and therefore isn't professional enough.
I thought the font there was hard to read.
Seems a bit too like. I mean, it's good because it's not staged, but it's like you could put like effect over it so it doesn't look as casual.
This question focuses on whether or not they find the print advert to be appropriate and whether or not they find it was a conventional channel for print advert. The question is rated on a scale up to 10 and the average answer is 7.44, which is a relatively high answer to have as the average. This indicates that the participants find the print advert to be appropriate and recognised it as a print advert. This suggests that the desired audience would therefore be attracted to it too. One individual suggests that the print advert's use of Photoshop to edit a face into it took away from how appropriate it was, as it didn't suit the topic.
I think the background's good, but I don't think his face matches the title Obsession. It looks more like Phobia.
In the final question, I asked whether or not the radio advert encouraged any of the participants to want to watch the rest of the documentary. Very much and yes were the highest answers at 4 each, while no and not at all had 0 each. This implies to me that the radio advert completed its job and would convince the audience to watch it.